So I want you to imagine a rat for a second. Just a normal rat.
Right, just a baseline everyday rat in a lab.
Yeah, and normally this rat would actually risk its own life to save a trapped friend. Like it has this natural pro-social instinct to help
Right,
out.
built into their biology, yeah.
Exactly.
Correct.
But if you take that exact same free rat and you give it access to like a single drop of a synthetic chemical,
Just one drop.
just one, it will literally sit there completely ignoring its frantic, trapped companion just to get another hit.
It's chilling, honestly, because, it's a profound shift in behavior.
And today, we are looking at how that exact same chemical is currently rewiring your daily habits, your attention span, and I mean, even your relationship with your own family.
We are walking around with this neurological hardware that evolved for like a really harsh world of scarcity, but we're currently drowning in this environment of overwhelming engineered abundance.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. If you've ever found yourself, endlessly scrolling at 2 in the morning or optimizing your routine until you're exhausted but still feeling totally empty, this is for you.
Yeah, we're really getting into the biology of that emptiness today.
Our mission today is to understand the invisible neurobiological forces hijacking your attention. We are pulling from the, honestly, mind-blowing research of Dr. Anna Lembke.
She's incredible. She's the chief of the Stanford Addiction Medicine Dual Diagnosis Clinic, literally one of the top voices in the world on the science of dopamine.
And her work, it basically forces us to confront our own biology.
It really does. Because her whole argument is that our brains are just completely unequipped to handle the sheer volume of high-reward, low-effort stuff we have today.
We're basically experiencing a brand new kind of neurological stress.
Exactly. A modern plague, really.
Okay, let's unpack this, because Dr. Lemke's research completely flipped how I view pleasure. And it's mostly because of how she visualizes the brain's reward center.
Right, the seesaw metaphor. It's so helpful.
Yeah. Instead of just, thinking of dopamine as the happy chemical,
Yeah.
she says you need to picture the reward pathway as a literal seesaw, a balanced scale inside your brain.
What's fascinating here is that the critical biological role of that seesaw is homeostasis.
Meaning it wants to stay level.
Exactly. Your brain will do whatever it takes to keep that scale perfectly flat. So when you experience something rewarding, say eating a really good meal or finding shelter, dopamine gets released.
Into the synaptic cleft, right?
Right, that tiny gap between your neurons, and the scale tips toward the side of pleasure.
But the brain basically refuses to let it stay tipped.
No, it hates that. It immediately mounts a defense to bring things back to center.
So it pushes back.
Yeah, the brain responds to that dopamine spike by putting pressure on the opposite side of the scale, the pain side. She calls them little gremlins or rocks, hopping onto the pain side to weigh it down.
I love that visual. Just these little gremlins trying to ruin your good time.
Well, in neuroscience, we call it neuroadaptation. The brain is literally downregulating its own dopamine transmission.
Right, it's reducing the number of active receptors, right? So the pleasure fades and you go back to normal.
Exactly. It wants you back at a neutral, motivated baseline.
Which, makes perfect sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Like, if eating one single blackberry kept you in euphoric bliss for a week, you'd starve to death.
You just sit there smiling while a tiger ate you.
Right. You need that pleasure to fade so you stay motivated to go hunt again.
But, and this is the crux of the issue, the system fundamentally breaks down when we introduce modern synthetic rewards.
It's like building a tolerance to spicy food, right? Like,
Yeah.
at first, a jalapeno completely blows your
Oh,
mind.
yeah, you're sweating. It's intense.
But a year later, you're pouring, like, ghost pepper sauce on your eggs just to feel something.
That is exactly what happens with dopamine. When you flood the brain with massive unnatural spikes, whether that's gambling, hard drugs, or just, hours of rapid-fire social media, the brain overcorrects massively.
Because it senses it as a toxic flood.
Yes. So it aggressively prunes back its receptors to defend your neural circuitry.
So it's heavily, heavily weighing down that pain side of the scale.
It is, piling on the rocks. And when
Yeah.
you finally put the phone down or the stimulus stops, those dopamine receptors don't just instantly magically regrow.
The scale crashes.
It crashes hard to the side of pain. You enter what Dr. Lemke calls a dopamine deficit state.
Okay, wait, I'm getting a little tripped up here. If evolution designed us to experience pleasure, are we just biologically doomed to be miserable if we find efficient ways to enjoy life? Like, does any pleasure inevitably lead to this deficit?
That is such a vital distinction to make. No, Occasional natural rewards do not destroy your baseline.
Okay, phew.
The danger is the relentless pursuit of intense, frictionless pleasure. When you continually hammer that pleasure side without giving your brain time to recover its receptor density, the tolerance just compounds.
And eventually you hit clinical anhedonia.
Right, the absolute inability to take joy in anything at all.
That sounds terrifying.
It is. Your reward pathway becomes so depleted that normal joys like a quiet walk or reading a physical book, they just don't register. The threshold is pushed so incredibly high that only hyperpotent stimuli even make a blip.
Man. And if our receptors are so burned out that physical reality feels exhausting, it makes total sense that we'd seek out social connections that require zero effort.
Yes, the drubification of human connection.
Which is such a wild concept from the source.
Mhm.
Taking something as fundamental as bonding and turning it into a drug.
Well, we have to look at the biology of bonding. When you connect with someone, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone.
Right, the love hormone.
Yeah.
But the source points out that oxytocin actually binds directly to dopamine-releasing neurons.
Exactly. Evolution tied connection to survival, so it made socializing neurologically rewarding. But historically, getting that reward took immense effort.
Yeah, you had to, like, navigate awkward conversations, read subtle facial cues, actually compromise with people.
There was a high degree of friction. But today, dating algorithms, social media, AI chatbots, they have systematically stripped away all that friction.
Because the algorithm's entire job is to flatter you. It validates your worldview without ever demanding you grow or change.
Right. You don't have to compromise with a customized AI that remembers your exact preferences and never, ever has a bad day.
This raises an important question, though. Like, what is the actual psychological impact of this, especially on kids?
It's alarming. The source highlights surveys where parents admit to handing their distressed toddlers smartphones or AI cuddly toys just to soothe their tantrums.
Instead of, doing the messy, exhausting work of actually parenting them through the emotion.
Right, and it seems like a harmless convenience in the moment, but neurologically, it wires a really dangerous action perception loop in the child's brain.
Because of Hebb's law, the whole neurons that fire together, wire together thing.
Exactly. By handing them the device, you are physically building a neural pathway that links their internal anxiety directly to the action of grabbing a screen.
Wow. So you're teaching their nervous system to bypass human comfort entirely.
Yes. They learn to self-soothe with an algorithm. And Dr. Lemke warns this severely compromises their ability to tolerate interpersonal friction later in life. As tolerance builds, they'll need more extreme digital validation, which just leads to profound isolation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. This totally recontextualizes Elon Musk's prediction about the age of abundance.
Oh, right. The idea that AI and robots will do all our work.
Yeah, the source discusses how tech leaders envision this near future where we have like 7 hours of leisure time a day backed by universal basic income.
Which sounds like a utopia on paper.
Right. You'd think people would read philosophy or invent things or clean the planet.
But the neurobiology of addiction suggests the exact opposite outcome.
Exactly. Because if you remove all the friction from survival, people are already spending that time completely isolated, just endlessly scrolling or talking to AI boyfriends that cost $20 a month.
When reality requires effort and the digital world offers frictionless dopamine, a depleted brain will always, always choose the path of least resistance.
Which brings us back to the rats we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
If these digital environments are so isolating, why do we keep going back to them?
Well, the triggers aren't just in the drug itself. They're embedded in our environment and our stress levels.
The animal models really show this, don't they?
They do. So take the foundational study where a rat is in a cage with a lever that dispenses intravenous cocaine.
And it just presses it constantly.
Relentlessly, ignoring food, ignoring water, until it literally dies of exhaustion. But if researchers take the cocaine away, the rat eventually learns the lever is dead, and it stops.
The rat essentially gets clean.
Right. But crucially, if you take that newly clean rat and give it a painful foot shock...
The stress trigger.
Yes. The very first thing it does is sprint over to the lever and start frantically pressing it again.
Because the physical stress instantly reactivates the addiction pathway.
Exactly. The brain mapped that dopamine reward as the fastest escape route from pain. So when we are under acute stress, a bad day at work, financial anxiety, our prefrontal cortex, the logic center, goes offline.
And the primitive emotion brain just takes the wheel and demands relief.
And that desperation overrides everything. Core values, morals, empathy.
which perfectly explains the other study, where the rat on heroin completely ignores its trapped friend in the plastic bottle.
Yes. It's not that the rat became inherently evil. Its biological priorities were hijacked. The need for dopamine homeostasis eclipsed its instinct for empathy.
And the source connects this to the sociopathy we see in extreme human addiction, right?
Right. The brain's focus narrows so severely that people will abandon their loved ones just to get their drug of choice.
But the trap isn't just illicit drugs. I think that's super important for you listening to grasp. The drug can be highly subjective.
It's whatever successfully hijacks your specific circuitry.
Yeah, like the source points out that even Dr. Lemke herself, this world-renowned Stanford addiction expert, she found herself hiding in an empty room at a party to furiously read Twilight-style romance novels.
We're spending 14 hours a week watching Dr. Pimple Popper videos just to zone out.
Which is wild, but it proves the point. Whether it's obsessively checking analytics, curating your Instagram, or online shopping, if it delivers that unnatural spike, it leaves a heavy rock on your pain scale.
So, having diagnosed this pretty bleak reality, how do we actually get our agency back?
Right, the protocol. The main solution in the source is a complete dopamine fast.
Yeah.
And the magic number seems to be 4 weeks.
30 days is the clinical benchmark, yeah. It takes an average of 4 weeks of unbroken abstinence from your specific trigger for the brain's neuroplasticity to do its work.
It needs that time to realize the flood has stopped.
Exactly, to clear the rocks off the pain side and physically rebuild those dopamine receptors.
But those first 2 weeks are rough. The brain does not give up easily.
Oh, the first 10 to 14 days are the acute withdrawal phase. You will likely feel anxious, irritable, you might have insomnia, and just intense, intrusive cravings.
Because your brain is literally starved of dopamine and panicking.
Right, like the patient in the source with the severe food addiction.
Oh, wow, yeah, the donut story.
Yes, she walks into her office break room, sees a box of donuts on the table, and immediately breaks out in a cold sweat.
With actual stomach pain, right. Just from seeing them.
This from the visual cue. Her brain had so heavily overvalued the dopamine release of sugar that just seeing it triggered a physiological crisis.
It's basically hallucinating a reward that isn't even real anymore, just to trick you into caving.
Completely.
Yeah.
Which is why relying on pure willpower during those first 2 weeks is a guaranteed path to failure. Willpower is highly exhaustible.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where self-binding comes in, right?
Yes, creating structural barriers so your exhausted willpower gets a break.
Like physical self-binding, deleting the apps, leaving your phone in another room.
Or metacognitive binding. Just categorizing the behavior as completely off limits so you aren't constantly debating maybe just 5 minutes.
Okay, so that structural approach makes total sense for stopping a bad habit. But I want to push back a little or flip the mechanics here.
Okay, let's hear it.
What if the goal isn't just to stop doing something bad, but to start a good habit, like going to the gym or writing a book? Can we game this homeostasis seesaw to our advantage?
We absolutely can. And honestly, this is the most empowering part of the research.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, if addictive behaviors mean pressing on the pleasure side and paying for it later with pain, you can build healthy drive by intentionally pressing on the pain side of the scale first.
Wait, really? You voluntarily take on friction?
Yes. Think about a demanding morning workout or an ice bath. When you subject your body to intense exercise, it's immediately recognized as a cellular stressor.
It's technically a mild injury.
Right, it's painful, your brain resists it, but the body senses this stress and mounts a biological defense by upregulating feel-good neurotransmitters, endorphins, naturally occurring dopamine.
So it's the homeostasis reflex, but in reverse. Because you inflicted healthy pain, the brain drops weights onto the pleasure side to level you out.
Exactly. And the crucial difference is sustainability. Unlike the synthetic spikes from a screen that lead to a crash, this delayed dopamine release actually restores your baseline joy.
It leaves you energized for hours.
It does, which completely validates the psychology of doing the hard things first.
The source stresses this heavily. Starting your morning with effort, making the bed, exercising, brushing your teeth before you ever touch a screen.
Because if you wake up, roll over, and immediately grab your phone for a hit of TikTok, you have instantly tipped your scale toward artificial pleasure.
And the rest of the day is just a neurobiological come down.
Doing anything that requires sustained effort after that feels impossible because you're already in a deficit state.
So you really have to outsmart your motion brain by using the prefrontal cortex, the long-term planning center.
Yes, If you wait until 6 a.m. to decide if you want to run, the primitive emotion brain, which hates friction, will always choose the warm bed.
But if you lay out your gym clothes the night before, you're using the prefrontal cortex to lock your future self into the task.
You're orchestrating the friction so you can't escape it.
Which brings us to this really profound behavioral shift from the research, radical honesty.
Oh, this is fascinating. Dr. Lemke found that patients who successfully recovered from severe addictions had one universal trait. They refused to lie about anything.
Not even like the little socially acceptable white lies.
No, not even saying traffic was bad when they were really just running 5 minutes late. They were radically honest.
So what does this all mean for the seesaw?
Well, look at truth-telling through that lens. Lying, at its core, is a mechanism to escape reality. It's a low-friction way to avoid the pain side of the scale.
Oh, wow. Yeah. When you tell yourself, I only spent 20 minutes on my phone, but your screen time says 4 hours,
hmm
you're just avoiding the awkward friction of accountability.
You get a tiny hit of relief, a dopamine microdose, by avoiding the consequence. But over time, that avoidance disconnects you from reality and keeps you in a deficit.
So radical honesty forces you to voluntarily accept the pain of friction.
Exactly. You admit you made a mistake, you endure the uncomfortable reality, and the brain senses that psychological friction and actually compensates by upregulating your dopamine baseline.
It grounds you in reality, which gives you the awareness you actually need to make a real choice.
You stop playing the victim and reclaim your agency.
That is incredibly powerful.
Mhm.
So just to summarize all of this for you listening, our brains are basically these ancient scales trying to survive in a modern world of overwhelming abundance.
A world that has engineered all the friction out.
Right. And whether your specific trigger is sugar, an AI companion, or endless scrolling, that frictionless pleasure eventually destroys your baseline.
It leaves you with a deficit of joy.
But by embracing the friction, by abstaining for 30 days, doing the hard things first, and practicing radical honesty, your neuroplasticity allows you to reset. You can actually find real joy again.
I think there's a lingering thought we all need to mull over, though.
Okay.
We've spent the last century using technology to engineer all the physical and emotional friction out of our daily existence.
We want everything instant and comfortable.
Right. But if the human brain actually requires the pain of friction to generate the capacity for joy, are we innovating our way out of the ability to be happy?
Man, that is a heavy thought. If we eliminate the struggle, we might just be eliminating our capacity for joy.
It's something we all need to deeply consider.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really encourage you to take a radical look at your own habits this week. Maybe embrace a little more friction today. We'll catch you next time.